During the 1960s, the Western world had sexual more, education, women's rights, and anti-war protests. To begin, Sweden took lead in the sexual revolution, which, not too long after, Europe and the United States followed. Sweden's liberal legislation had sex education and decriminalization. Continuing, there was a gay rights protest, which began in California and soon spread to France, Britain, and Italy. Inventing birth control pills allowed more sexual freedom. Premarital sexual experiences and divorce rates increased during this time. The Western world also had education revolts. During the second half of the 1960s began a youth rebellion protest movement. Only kids in wealthy classes got higher education. What is your opinion on the methods of teachers in classrooms during this year of 1960?
Now that the war is over and education is cheaper and more equal, I think classes should be smaller so teachers pay more attention to students. And I think that universities should provide more accurate modern education.
During the 1960s, there were serious issues in the classroom, like class sizes, uninvolved teachers and administrators, and teachers not providing a relevant education. This made students unhappy and they wanted change. This led to student-wide marches which started in France and spread throughout Western Europe, especially into Western Berlin. The most violent march was in Western Berlin when young people marched for the destruction of what they thought was an outdated order. They followed German philosopher Herbert Marcuse and his socialist ideas. This ended in the police violently clashing with protesters. These protests then renewed the feminist movement, advocating for equal rights and equal pay.
Betty Friedan, who is an American writer, activist, and feminist, wrote a book called The Feminine Mystique, which analyzed the problems of middle-class women and argued that women were being denied equality to men. Because of this book, Friedan became a celebrity. On June 30th, 1966, she also founded the National Organization for Women. Their goal was to take action to bring women into full participation in the mainstream of American society, exercising all the privileges and responsibilities thereof in truly equal partnership with men. The National Organization for Women is now the largest organization of feminist members in all 50 states. Friedan had also wanted to add an amendment to the Constitution to guarantee equal rights for women, but it never ended up being part of the Constitution. In 1968, over 30,000 protesters broke out in France, Italy, Britain, and England to protest the Vietnam War. Anti-war protests had also divided the American people after President Lyndon Johnson had sent American troops to war in Vietnam. After more military was drafted, protests began to escalate. Teach-ins, sit-ins, and occupations of buildings at universities alternated with more radical demonstrations that led to violence. 4 students were killed at Kent State University in 1970 by the Ohio National Guard, which had sparked a reaction, and the anti-war movements began to slow down.
One, two.
Lydia. Yeah. Bloopers!
Stori eating her lunch.
Okay.